This video is an introduction to the IPTC Cultural Heritage Metadata Tools for Adobe Bridge. So let's get started by installing them. They consist of two JavaScript files that you place into your Bridge Startup Scripts folder, and the easiest way to find this folder is to open Bridge and find your preferences. So in Windows, this is under the Edit menu, and look for Preferences at the bottom. So when you open this, you can navigate to your startup scripts by clicking here on the left. So these are the scripts that are currently installed. These two come by default from Adobe, but you can add additional ones, custom ones, and you do this by opening the startup scripts folder. So look at the bottom for the button that says Reveal My Startup Scripts and click that. So this is the folder where you place the files. So I'm going to open the download folder where I have my zip file that I downloaded. I'm going to open that, and here I can see the folder. So I've got my guide, this is a Word document, and then two different JavaScript plugins. One is the export import tool. This will allow you to export your data and work with it in a spreadsheet. And then the second one is the heritage panel itself. So I need to copy both of these from my downloads over into my startup scripts folder. Okay, so now that's done, just you can close those windows and close the preferences. So to activate these plugins, you have to restart Bridge. So I'm going to do that now. And when you open Bridge with new scripts, it will ask you for security reasons if you want to run this new extension. So I'm going to say yes to the export import tool and say yes to the heritage panel. So then Bridge should launch, and if you're successful, look at the top, you will see a new menu button for IPTC Cultural Heritage Metadata. So just a quick note, as I click it here, I see the metadata panel and the export import tool. If you have any older versions of the IPTC tools installed, make sure you uninstall them or just delete them from that folder before you bring in the new files. If you fail to do this, you'll see this repeated. For instance, if you see metadata panel listed here twice, that means you have an old version installed. So just go back to your startup scripts file and make sure you delete any old versions. So now let's take a look at the metadata panel. If I go back up to my heritage menu at the top, I have the two choices. We'll discuss the export import tool in a separate video. So I'm going to select the metadata panel now. And the first view I get of it kind of looks like something's broken, but that just indicates that I haven't yet selected an image in Bridge to look at. So I'm going to scoot Bridge over here and select my first thumbnail, and now I can see the metadata for it. So you can leave the panel open as you click through different images in Bridge, and the metadata will get updated in the panel. So the layout is broken down into 4 screens. The first one that you see is the artwork or object panel, and all these fields are describing attributes about that artwork. So its title, its creator, its date created, for instance. And then note that for date, there are 2 date fields. The first one is meant for just a single year. It can't hold a range of dates. Only can be a single year, and it has to be in one of these formats: the year, year month, or year month and date. For heritage works, IPTC added a new field, which is the circa date created, and that can handle cases like this one where it's an estimated date of about 450 BC. You can't really put BC up in this single date created. So that's why there are 2 date fields now, and you can choose whichever one is appropriate for the object that you're describing. So speaking of what you're describing, obviously this object is from 450 BC, but the image, if I click image description, I can see the image was created in 2015. And it was created by the J. Paul Getty Museum. If I go back to the artwork field, I can see that this artwork was created by the Hunt painter. So another field that was added recently was the creator's ID field, and this is meant for a globally unique identifier. In this case, it's using the ULAN field, ULAN term. And in case you're wondering how you could actually add a term like that, let's go back to this example. And I would say I want to search for this artist. I'm just going to copy that name. And then I'll go open this up in the Getty's Union list of artist names and paste that in the search box and search for that. you can see I get a result, and I'll click on that. So this is the record for ULAN for this artist with variant names and so forth. So this is actually very useful. And then this is the identifier. So I'm going to copy that. And then back in my panel, I can use that as the ID. In this case, I'm just going to do a shortcut and just say ULAN, and then paste that identifier. Now, anyone who encounters this will be able to find out exactly who I'm talking about, even if they have a different, one of the alternate spellings or alternate versions of that name. So going down the list, a few new other fields that have been added, the style period. This would be something like, oh, yes, I do want to save my change. So this object is in the style Greek. The contribution description, this could be useful for something that's very complex work that involves several creators, like a work of architecture or something like that. Could be used for something like the archaeologist, maybe, who discovered the item. Below that, physical description is really a combination of things like the technique and materials and the dimensions. The source is meant to be the institution or the person that currently owns or is responsible for that item. So typically going to be a repository or museum. And then below that is their inventory number. And below that we have a new URL field that is very useful for directing a user back to the repository's website to that particular item where they can get additional information. The content description can be anything that you want to say about the artwork. And below that, copyright notice, owner, and licensor name. Note that copyright owner and licensor also have unique identifier fields. A good use for this might be the plus registry identifiers. So moving on to the image description screen, the title, creator, date created, and location are at the top. Below that, there are three fields that are actually very useful for getting information to most users in most photo applications: headline, description, and keywords. These three things typically are visible in most applications and even in file browsers. So a good strategy here might be to concatenate information for the artwork into these three fields. And so we've provided a button that will do that. I'm going to clear these fields now so they're empty, and then if I click the fill button, what has happened is it's concatenated information from the artwork field. So for instance, the headline is made up of the creator and then the title. Description is made up of lots of different fields: title, creator, date, dimensions, and the description. After you've filled them, you can manually edit these. So for instance, if I don't want this long description in my caption, I'll just take that off, and then I can save the changes. There's also options available here and with this button where you can choose what kind of punctuation you want to separate these fields. So for headline, the default is to separate it with a colon, but I could also make it, say, a period. And likewise for description, I can change that option as well. Keywords should always use a semicolon and a space. That's just a convention that Adobe uses in most of their tools and a lot of other photos tools as well. So that one you're kind of stuck with a semicolon. So the image right screen, a couple features here are for credit line and copyright notice. There's a button to add the copyright symbol. So if I click that, now I've got the copyright symbol. And below that, the usage, terms, licensor, and property release fields. In image admin, instructions, and maximum width, supplier, and entry, again, these are good places to use something like the plus registry identifiers. One quick note, there is an option to handle situations where you may open an image you got from somewhere else that has a lot more metadata fields than this particular panel can display. Keep in mind there's sort of a limited size that we were working with for this panel, so we had to make some limitations on repeat fields or multiple fields. And so to cover cases where you'd have an image, say, I'm going to look at this test image, which is full of lots of information. When I click it, you'll see, oh, first it'll ask me to save my changes. Yes, I'll save the changes to other field. So this is the warning I was talking about. This popped up because it's telling me that this particular test image actually has a description of 4 separate artwork or objects. You can do that in IPTC. It's not that common, but it does happen. So if you see this warning, it's just telling you that there is additional information that this particular panel doesn't display. So it's just letting you know, you may want to look at another metadata panel that can show that. For instance, the built-in one in Adobe Bridge can show additional artwork or objects. It does not, however, show all the new cultural heritage fields, and that's why we built this panel. So again, if this pops up, that's what's going on. Hopefully you won't ever see this, but if you do see it, that's what it is. And if you do see it and you just don't care, you don't want to see it, just click this box and you won't see it again. Likewise, at the very bottom of the panel, you'll see this statement, show more metadata warning. That's what that's for. It's just that warning box. Also note that you can select multiple images. So I'm going to select this one, and I'll select this one. Now I'll go back to my artwork or object field, and you'll notice that now a lot of these fields say multiple values. That's because the title, for instance, in these two works is not the same. So it's displaying this to let me know that they're actually different, and if I make a change here, if I were to edit this title and save it, it would apply to both of these images, which would be a mistake. So I don't want to do that. If, on the other hand, you select images that will have the same information, say these 3 images of this mummy, they'll all have the same title, creator date, and so forth, you can see it's there. So if I wanted to add metadata or edit it for these 3, I could do that as a batch process. So that's the basics of it. We hope you find it useful, and thank you very much.